The vast majority of patriots right now are very hopeful, optimistic about what the future holds. At the very least, we're thinking that many of the problems that we face, from the border invasion to the tanking economy to our place in the international community, billions of dollars going to foreign interests, all these things we think, hey, they're going to get fixed. We just got to hold out, make it through the next couple of months. Hopefully, Joe Biden doesn't start World War III or decimate the economy or anything like that in the time that remains in his abysmal term as president. But with that said, we still have certain threats, risks, and I hate to sound like a fearmonger, but one of them in particular was highlighted in an article over at Gatestone Institute by Lawrence Kadish. The next war attacks on U.S. digital infrastructure, hackers, cybersecurity. These are things that have not been properly addressed. I think that we've been living on borrowed time in many ways, because it's actually quite shocking how things haven't broken. We've had major hacks. Don't get me wrong. There have been. I would argue that chances are, if you're watching this, that your passwords, whether old or maybe even current, attached to your emails and usernames and whatever, are floating around the dark web somewhere. China has them. Russia probably has them. North Korea probably has them. Iran probably has them. Iran, for all of their backwards nature, they actually have a very robust cyber terrorism organization. But with that said, they're still far behind China and North Korea, who are both doing very well. According to the article, it's an old saying repeated by military strategists who consistently warn, don't prepare to fight the last war. Their inference is that while there are lessons to be learned from studying the last conflict, the next one may well be profoundly different than what we previously endured, catching a nation totally unprepared. For America, the next one may already be upon us. It is not the scenario we anticipated, namely enemy aircraft coming over the pole to attack with nuclear weapons or a catastrophic exchange of ICBMs. Even the lessons gained from the current Russian war on Ukraine may not be fully applicable to America's defense of the homeland. Consider the current assault. As revealed in media reports, Chinese hackers sought to target the mobile phones of then presidential candidate Donald J. Trump and intercepted data meant for our law enforcement agencies. A sworn enemy, Iran, is also looking to wage their war against the great Satan by seeking to hit our nation's most vulnerable targets, our digital infrastructure. Meanwhile, today's Pentagon is wrestling with multi-billion-dollar projects that are not going well. The Army has been stymied in developing a new attack helicopter at a cost to the taxpayer that is staggering. The Air Force is still profoundly unhappy with its next-generation tanker aircraft built by Boeing, and rightfully so. The Navy lost an aircraft carrier to an accidental fire. Based on these multi-billion-dollar woes, the idea that incoming Trump administration intends to shake up the Pentagon should not only come as no surprise, but should be lauded and welcomed by Americans who want a strong, credible, and effective defense. However, whoever sits in the corner office of the Pentagon needs to embrace the clear and urgent warning that we not only can't fight the last war, but our enemies are already engaged in the next one, intent on defeating America where we live, online. And of course we're talking about Pete Hegseth. Should be, Lord willing, unless there's any major shenanigans in the Senate, he should be the next Secretary of Defense, and it will be incumbent on him and his staff and the support people around him to try to make us safe from these threats. And these threats are burgeoning, but they're also very well established in many ways. There was an article, I didn't get to talk about it. It was sitting on, I have this style. I see a story that I want to talk about, and sometimes it doesn't make it into the show, but I keep it there. And maybe it doesn't make it into the next show, and I still keep it. After a while, it gets to the point where, you know what, it's just gotten too old. I might talk about a story that's, I don't like talking about stories that are a day old, but sometimes I'll talk about a story that's a day or 2 or 3 old. This story actually came out a couple of days ago. But with that said, there was an article that had come out, and I talked about it briefly. But basically, the systems that we have at our ports here in the United States, many of those systems, including the robotic systems that are used to move the cargo from ships, off of ships, that they are made with Chinese technology that is easily hackable. As a matter of fact, not just hackable, but there are those who are suggesting and warning that they're pre-hacked. In other words, they're already delivering a backdoor to that crucial aspect of our infrastructure. And it's not even talking about the digital infrastructure itself, which too is very vulnerable. My piece of advice to anybody out there: we have all of this amazing technology, and obviously I'm here online. I embrace technology in many ways, but do not become absolutely reliant on it. Do not let yourself be vulnerable, as personally, you, yourself, your family. Make sure that you could, in certain events, that you are very well prepared to live in an analog world. Okay, I mean, there are multiple ways that we could be set back as a nation, or even just your community, or your city, or your state. Be ready just in case you are forced to fend for yourself without access to Amazon. There's a lot of people out there that right now who have not been to a pharmacy, for example, for a long time. They get their chronic illness drugs, their life-saving drugs, they get them mailed to them. There are a lot of people out there who don't go out at all. They just order their food, all their supplies. All I'm suggesting is I'm strongly recommending, imagine what the world would look like if the internet went down for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, indefinitely. Imagine what your world would look like if you did not have access to all these amazing things we have access to today. Would you be able to survive, or would you become reliant on government? Would you become reliant on FEMA? Would you become reliant on any of these organizations that will be forced to hopefully get to you, and maybe they wouldn't even be able to get to you? Could you survive if things go really south? And that's a question that all of us should be prepared to answer. Maybe not today, but almost certainly tomorrow at some point. Be sure to follow my work everywhere that I work by going to jdrucker.com/find, F-I-N-D, jdrucker.com/find. You'll find my socials, my shows, my Substacks, the works.